Hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Ryder. And this is my dad's show.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to say thanks to all of our listeners, thanks to all of our sponsors for all your support. We are continuing to enjoy this journey together, inspiring dads, but I want to take a minute now to talk about Acme Homes. You've heard me talk about them before, but I'm going to talk about them again. Bob Cumming, former college teammate, amazing leader, amazing home builder. They continue to take so much pride in the work they do, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Whether you're looking for a home up in Monroe, up in Sultan, up in Wenatchee, this is where they're doing their amazing things. So many people during the pandemic, as we have the ability to work from home, have decided to move out of the city to try to find homes where there's more acreage. Well, that's exactly what Bob and team at Acme Homes give you. So check out Valley Vista up in Monroe. Check out Daisy Meadows out in Sultan. And if you want to even go to Eastern Washington, check out Sienna Heights in Wenatchee. They're, again, amazing craftsmanship, amazing floor plans. You can visit them at acmehomeswa.com. And if you're interested in learning specifically about listings or mortgage opportunities, contact Jen at 425-308-8082 or Denise at 425-309-2318. So now, why are we doing a new ad? Because we want to talk about a partnership they have with Portage Bank. Kevin Jensen is one of the great lenders over there. He's a senior vice president. He's going to take care of you. And right now, if you obtain a mortgage through Portage Bank, Bob and team at Acme Homes are going to pay your $500 appraisal fee. I said that right. They're going to pay your $500 appraisal fee by buying a home through them, getting your mortgage through the folks at Portage Bank. So don't wait. Now's the time to contact Jen, contact Denise. Again, Jen's number is 425-308-8082. Again, Denise is at 425-309-2318. Visit acmehomeswa.com right now. Don't wait. Thank you again for listening to the Quarterback Dadcast. So with that, let's get right to today's episode. Well, hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast, and we are in season 3. God, that feels good to say that. I never would have thought that would happen. Shout out to Ty Nunez, old 86 from Yakima, my receiver from college. Yes, we're going Uncle Rico out of the gates. But man, this has been a fun journey. And I want to say thank you to all the dads who've been a part of this journey in season 1 and season 2. It's inspiring. I get free therapy every week by talking to you amazing dads, to hearing about what's working, what's not. And our next guest is the gentleman I met through the power of LinkedIn. His name's Marc Angelos. Hopefully I said that right. And if I didn't, he's going to correct me. But we found out we actually have a shared contact in common. The Dale Favors, who is one of my favorite people I've met, a gentleman who's taught me more about life, relationships, race relations. I freaking love that guy. And Marc is a very talented human being. He spent 27 years on Wall Street. He's a pending author, books hopefully coming out in April, which we're excited to hear about. And he now is the CEO and owner and runner and operator of a company called Invictus Communications, essentially a content marketing firm. And I can say that he helped me break into the Calendly world. So Calendly, you owe him some commission. He's a relationship selling guy. He's a authentic guy. With all that said, his ego is now massive, but we're not going to have that. We're not going to hear about all that stuff. Well, maybe a little bit. We're going to hear about Marc the Dad. And so without further ado, Mr. Marc Angelos, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thank you very much, Casey. It's a pleasure to be here.
Cool. So how we start each episode is I want to know, what are you most grateful for as a father today?
Well, I'm obviously most grateful for my children. I have 2 boys, 15, 13. I think I'm most grateful for the opportunity to spend more time with them now as a person who runs his own company. I can today, for example, I'm going to go be watching my older son in his first fencing tournament. So that's the kind of thing that doesn't happen when you work a corporate career.
100%. That's so true, man. I am grateful for time I spent with my son last night. And I find I'm carving out time to do this more with both my son, who's 15, and my daughter, who's 13. We have similar age kids, which is awesome. Just getting that one-on-one time and getting curious and asking more questions. So my son and I had a great moment after his golf lesson with his coach last night. And then my daughter, I picked her up from hoops, and she's going through that adolescence change as a 13-year-old. And I'm entering the dad's a dipshit era, I can start to feel. And
it's going to go for a while.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
So I reminded her, and I'm like, Dad, I got some decent dad jokes, at least I think. And so I'm getting just tough crowd, no giggles. I'm like, what? God, and she's going to have to really make me work on my game. And I said, Riley, you remember what you told me when you were 8 years old? She's like, no, Dad. I said, you told me you wouldn't be one of those scary, psycho 13-year-old teenagers that hate their dad. I'm kind of seeing it come out, girl. And she started laughing. She's like, Dad, stop it. And so like we kind of laughed about it. But I'm like, you got to remember, like I'm on your side. I've been through puberty. I've been through these things. Let me be on your side. So we joked and laughed about it. So I'm grateful to at least have those conversations and keep it real. But
I'll tell you the difference between having boys and girls. Like I've got two boys. I'll never see them again after they move out of here. And I don't want that. I love them. But girls will keep the family together. They'll be in your life one way or another. She'll be a pain in your ass right now, but in the years ahead, it'll be the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, well, I hope so, man. It's it's funny. All the cliches you hear, man, I wish it would slow down, Mark, but it's not. It is definitely speeding up. I feel like.
I hear that. And you know what I find? Every year it gets more fun, but every year it goes faster. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, at least for me.
Yeah. Okay. So in the spirit of running a quarterback, you quarterback your family, even though our wives are probably the general manager, as we all know.
So my wife is the most organized, efficient, former, she's an accountant type. And I am the visionary all over the board, not the orderly guy you would expect. So you can tell how that runs.
Oh, yeah, we got more in common as the story unfolds. So talk about the team. What is the you said you got a couple of boys. Talk a little bit about what your current family, what's everybody up to right now?
Sure. So I have my older son is technically oriented, right? He's the Elon Musk of the family, builds his own computers, really knows he's really into it. Granted, I'm a proud dad, but even I'm impressed because I don't come from that technology interest background. My younger son is me. He is a ball of energy, a writer. He's a sales guy. And so the two of them are really interesting yin and yang. I always often say if they ever end up in business together, it's going to be killer. Like that's both pieces of the puzzle. Right. My wife, she's basically so she teaches autistic children, number one. So tells you about the type of person she is. And she comes from a long line of people who help people, firefighters, nurses. And so she loves being a mom. On the other end of that spectrum is I'm doing my own business, which, as you know, entrepreneurship it upends the ship every 5 minutes. Something is blowing up. It's firefighter city. So there's a little bit of a yin and yang with my wife and I, which is great. So we help balance each other. The two boys, they get along. I know a lot of times, folks, their kids don't always get along with each other. Sometimes siblings can go at it. These two really, and I'm not just saying because I'm on a podcast, they're best friends, which makes me feel like I'm doing something right, even when the landmines are going off in life. That's one of the things that I look to.
That's awesome. I think I don't know about you believe, but I believe that's taught. And I there's a piece of advice I got early in my life that said, you are what you allow. So if I allow my son to treat his sister like a complete a-hole and yell at her and push her and hit her, well, he's learning that behavior somewhere. So I believe, like we shut that down immediately at younger age. And we said, listen, family's all you got. I get there's going to be sibling kind of here and there, but for the most part, we're a big follow the golden rule life in our family about treat people the way you want to be treated, including your sister.
That's great.
I think they play ping pong every night. It's competitive. They joke around. They talk jive to each other, which I don't understand. It's just to be funny, and, but
I agree with you. It is taught. I think that's the case also. We were always big on respect. When I was growing up, my aunt who was up the street from us would always have this. It was like the people's court when there was a dispute between the kids. No, you couldn't speak until I got my piece out. I couldn't speak when you would speak. And then she would decide. And we thought that was fair. And I realized give people the respect as children and they will learn to respect each other.
Yeah. I love that. So before I forget, so your wife, I had a former guest on my show. His name's Jeff Miller. He actually was a former boss of mine 20 years ago.
Wow.
And he now leads a staffing and training company called Potentia, which trains companies on neurodiversity.
It's amazing.
So your wife should check them out because if she's teaching Potentia, if they teach because it's I learned a lot about the students or people who are dealt with neurodiverse, whether it's ADHD, Tourette's, autism. They're talented people. Their brain works differently. They think differently. And this company's helping train like large organizations, companies on how to hire and retain and utilize their skill set in a way that's creating patents, it's really, really cool, inspiring stuff. So I thought she might be interested in that.
Two things. One, I believe that, and this might be controversial, but school is built for one type of kid and autistics are not that kid.
Yep.
Meanwhile, they are incredibly creative, incredibly intelligent. Like that's all proven. This is data. And so a guy like Elon Musk, clearly a little bit on the spectrum, everyone hails him now. But at the time when you're going through the system, no. And
Mm-mm.
so I think that we as a collective society need to step back and recognize everyone has their own talents, and it might not
Mm-hmm.
be the way it expressed in the manner that society deems normal.
Yep.
That doesn't erase the fact that people have their skills. Knowing what you are, what you can bring. In the end, tapping into that is where success lies.
Yep. No, I love that. Okay, so I want to rewind the tape. Actually, before that, tell us a little bit about your Wall Street journey. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to start your own company. How'd that happen?
All right, so I worked 27 years on Wall Street, loved the people side of it, did not like Wall Street. I mean, it's okay, but it's a pretty one-dimensional career.
Mm-hmm.
Wall Street is generally math quantitative. At least I was on the electronic algorithmic trading side, which means AI-based software that trades stock market on behalf of hedge funds. I would sell that and build relationships to get people to trade with that. So you can imagine the type of people I'm working with. They're really the smartest of the smart people. But I realized quickly communication is a challenge for many of these folks. And so that was my niche. That was where I was going to fit myself. If I'm going to live in a world where I'm not a math guy, by the way, you do not want me doing your taxes, but you do want me fronting your rock band. So once I understood this is where I'll fit, I survived in a world where you're generally looked down upon as a salesperson when you're in a math-based quant world. That's the truth. So I didn't love it. However, the people end of it is great. Getting to know people. And so Wall Street was fun. I was in it through the era of the rise of electronic trading, and that's what I did. So while it was like the back end of Wall Street at the time, it eventually became the thing. And so I look at crypto now or NFTs, it's the same world I see there.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I always wanted to be doing my own thing. Most people want freedom. They don't want money. And I didn't realize this. I'm not that it matters, but I am Greek and Italian. Apparently, as I found out in my later years, the Greek community, big entrepreneurial folks, right? Everyone knows this, the diner stereotype. And
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't surprise me that when the opportunity arose with lockdown, COVID, work from home, I had been writing for 2 years a regular LinkedIn post around electronic trading and what AI trading looks like and the questions to ask for my customer base. Not for money, not for the company. It was just something I was doing. Well, that drove a lot of business, and I stumbled into what's now known as content marketing. But at the time, I didn't know that. I was just a sales guy. When it became lockdown and folks can't go meet their customer base,
Mm-hmm.
every friend I had on Wall Street hit me up and was like, Mark, help me put together something like you're doing because we need to get our message out. We need to get in front of customers. We can't go meet them. So I started doing it, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just start charging for this. And so that's how I ended up doing my own thing. What I find now is companies are so transaction oriented, and that might not be just the big ones like Wall Street, even on down to the small businesses. If you take the time to build a relationship and you go long term, you'll end up doing way more business, and the data supports that.
Well, you just like teed up like the perfect self plug for my book, Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. So thank you for that.
Which is where I came across you, Casey, I said to you, that was the first thing I didn't know you. I said,
Yeah.
I love that message because it is so on the money, and people like it sounds like people know it. No one does it.
Mm-mm.
I love what you're preaching.
Common sense, man. Okay, so let's go back. I want to learn about where and how Marc grew up. Talk about maybe brothers, sisters, what you got, just the journey of growing up, and talk about how your parents, mom and dad, shaped you now that you're a father.
So I grew up in Staten Island, New York, which is a suburb
Okay.
of New York City. It's kind of the butt of the joke in New York, which it's essentially more New Jersey than anything else. My father was a life insurance sales. Wasn't the most successful, but we got by. My mom was a school teacher. She taught fourth grade. They don't pay very well. So we didn't grow up with a lot of money. I have two older sisters, the oldest of which is phenomenal. I love them both dearly. The oldest was like a super performer. She was the president of the class, the student council. She ran the newspaper. She was captain of the swim team, one of those folks. My other sister, a year or so apart, always compared to her, I think, but she was the one I was kind of closer with growing up. We were like partners in crime. So I had a really good childhood growing up. Again, not a lot of money. We saved for years to go to Disney one time when I was 10, that kind of family. And I think that's fairly typical. So when it came time to go into business, I was really more interested in just getting a few bucks in the bank so I didn't have to live like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the back of that, my parents were great. I'm not going to give you the whole broken family story. Like my dad sacrificed for the family, 2, 3 jobs. My mom, again, didn't take a bigger teaching role so she could be home for us when we got home at 3 o'clock. She was teaching at the neighborhood school. So it was rich in people time with my both my siblings and my parents. And I think that modeled what I wanted to become as a dad later. My father was big on the value of hard work and sacrificing for the family. I remember around Christmas time, this time of year, he would have 3 and 4 jobs, night watchman at the Procter & Gamble plant, selling pools on the side, like whatever it was to pay the bills. And so you learn lessons without even being taught them. Years and years later, my dad was being wheeled in for a very serious operation. This is only about 10 years ago. And there was a 50-50 chance that he might not survive. And as they're rolling him away, he pulled me aside and he said to me, "Mark, take care of your mom." Very matter of fact. And I said, "Dad," he goes, "Don't worry, I'm going to be fine." Just like that. So as it turned out, he pulled through, no problem. And later on, I said to him 6 months later, "Dad, how are you so calm of mind?" And he said, "What else could I be? That's my job as a dad." And now as a father, I'm like, boom, like, nuclear bomb, of course. So you learn these lessons as a father. I think you don't realize you model yourself after the good and sometimes the bad. You're influenced by both. My mom was a tower of strength, very opinionated, someone might say. But you learn to stand up for yourself. You learn from your folks, and I did. So in the end, it was a great, this will sum it up. Years later, when we moved to Jersey, I went back and hacksawed down the street sign of the street I grew up in, which I still have displayed in my garage right now.
That's cool.
I was proud of where I came from.
What? So you mentioned Greek and Italian. Did you have is your parents or grandparents first generation American, second generation?
Yeah. So my grandparents, both sets of my grandparents were born here, first generation. So we would have been second generation. Okay. The interesting thing, though, my father's parents died. His mom died when he was 10. His dad died when he was 11. So he was raised by his aunt. To that end, I never really knew my dad's side of the family because the folks that I called my grandparents when I was growing up were really distant relatives. But they were great. And I didn't know that until years later. I learned that love, it transcends all. Like I would love my sister's kids the same way I would love my own if I had to take them in. Like that's just people. Yeah. And so the value of family came across. The understanding that hard times means we all pull together, that it's actually one family and not a bunch of people living under a roof. These were things that I walked away from when I grew up. On the Italian side, my mom's side, they were the strength of debating. We'd sit around the table. I remember this. The men would pick some topic at the holiday and just debate it. And it would be as bickering, loud, like aggressive. And if at any point they all agreed, well, then they had to pick a new topic, something else to fight about. So I learned the ability to defend your opinion, the ability to express yourself, all that.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. I'm sure that would be interesting, or specifically now in generation times like these, what we're going through, and everything's debating, and unfortunately, too many people are divided. But good note: do not argue with an Italian family in today's times. I would probably lose.
To that point, though, Casey, a key piece of debating is the listening. That's what's lacking today. It's not that I can tell my story. It's that I take the time to actively listen to yours first. And that doesn't mean waiting to talk. It means I process that.
Well, to quote Ted Lasso, we need to be curious and not judgmental.
Right.
That's why Ted, great show.
Ted Lasso is awesome. I think a lot of what we see out there today with the arguing and the bickering in society is a byproduct of social media where you can shut off the other opinion. I can not have to listen to it. I literally can live in my bubble. But we'll go through this, and then it goes the other way. It eventually becomes, okay, well, how do we fix this? Right. And I think we're starting to enter that conversation.
I sure hope so. I think our kids, this is the one thing hopefully the dads listening we can do to slow down and, like Mark talked about, listen, ask more questions. Don't just hear people, but listen to them, and be open-minded to new ideas. Which is a key to sales, right? Yeah. Yep. Big time. Yeah, exactly. You nailed that one. As you think about So real quick, so mom and dad, I think you shared this before we started recording. I shared with you that, at the time of we're in December right now. We're recording this episode comes out. It's going to be next year. I don't know if my dad will still be with us. I know I shared with you and
I'm
that
sorry
he's
to
in
hear this,
hospice,
Casey.
and you shared with me that you lost your father. That was 8 years ago,
That's correct.
and then
Yeah.
you
So
have and mom's still with us though.
my dad, it was prostate cancer that it went to brain cancer, to be honest.
Mm.
And it was a tough stretch. In the end of the day, though, like I said earlier, having the family pulled together, you suddenly realize where you come from. That's real life stuff that normally would shake someone. And you understand that we're a unit. And so my mom lives alone now in my town, ironically, same house. It's this huge 5-bedroom house. This woman's in her 80s, but she won't move. And I take care of what I can for the house. My sisters are there for her. It works out well. My point is, you learn that being a dad and the lessons therein of family extend way beyond what you think in the later years, even when you're not around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. I don't know if I share this with you, but so my wife and I, we've mainly been the primary caregivers for the last 15 years, 20 years, close to my father, not only emotionally, physically, financially, and
God bless you, Casey. That's tough. That's hard.
it's been brutal, man. I mean, I at one point during the journey, I looked up caregiver burnout, and I was like, and there was actually a thing, and I had like 9 of the symptoms. I'm like, holy,
I don't doubt it.
And
by the way, in the aging society, a lot of folks are going to be in your boat if they're not already.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and what to your point about family, I was going to say is I had 3 cousins come out of the woodwork, like loved them, great memories of them, but like they came to support and help. And so it's been neat to be able to share that story with my kids to say exactly what you're talking about, family supports, and find ways to come together to help. Because you couldn't do it all by yourself. And it was nice to, I think sometimes with death or challenge can bring opportunity or more positivity. And I'm such an optimist, borderline naive optimist, where I seek the best in people and look for the best in people. And even as tough a situation we're going through as our family, there's still things to be positive about.
I'll give you a personal story here. This is my father growing up, and he would share this often. When he was 10 years old and his mom passed, and he doesn't even know what it was. He thinks it was maybe a stroke or something. He was afraid, and so he would sleep in his dad's bed with his dad. Now, at the time, his father, my grandfather, whom I never met, was the only legalized immigrant. There was a bunch of Greek folks all living there. They were family members, maybe 8 people, he thought, in the house, and only one of whom was legal. And so at 11 years old, one morning, my dad wakes up in the bed next to his father. His father has had a heart attack and is dead. True story. So my dad wakes up, the only person in the house who's legally allowed to be there, and all these folks realize they're all going to get shipped out. They ransack the house that morning, taking the silverware, things off the wall, and leave. And my dad is left there with his 9-year-old sister. He's 11. And his father, who's dead, in the bed upstairs and doesn't know what's going to happen, right? He doesn't no idea. And as he's sitting there, his mom's sister, who had just been married a few weeks prior, shows up at the door. And she's like, get your things, we're going. And she raised him. And so, number one,
wow,
not all families are pulled together like that. Let's put it that way. To this day, I'm an Angelos. My 2 boys are Angelos. My wife, obviously married. We're the only Angeloses in my family. We all have my dad was given the choice to take his aunt's married name or keep his own, which he kept. So the name matters a lot to me. Number 2, I vowed after hearing these stories, okay, family is like sacred, dude. My job, it's literally my job, is to build something that would withstand situations. And so when my dad passed and the family pulled together, it was nice to see it. And you're doing the same, Casey. I know the short time I know you, how you talk about your father and the impact and the fact that you would make such sacrifices to care. It's the same lesson.
No, that's powerful stuff, man. I just literally couldn't imagine being a 11-year-old and waking up, my dad's passed away.
I know. And by the way, my dad never thought, because his father died so young, he never believed he would make it to old age. And so when I was born, he was 40. Like, he's a little on the older side for a guy. He was like, I just expected I would die at any point, Mark, and never see you grow up. He died, again, 8 years ago. And so he was fortunate enough to see the kids, the grandkids. When I told him I named my oldest son after him, he teared up. It was nice.
That's awesome. That's so cool. As you think about, the journey and the lessons that you can apply like to real life now that maybe other dads at home would relate to, like maybe talk about one or two things that really come to mind of that really hit home that you're using to be that ultimate leader or quarterback in your home.
Sure. So number one, you support your kids no matter what. It doesn't matter. I may not agree. I may not like. You can turn out however you turn out, but it's on me to make sure that we stay as a unit. And that means unconditional support. It means, and I've said this to my kids, when you get arrested and your buddy's drunk at the party, you call me and I'll be, every dad says that, but when time comes, you can't yell at the kid. I got into a car accident at 17, wrecked the family car, only car we had. We had no money. I was in a part of town I wasn't supposed to be in. My dad had made me promise not to go. And I wrecked the car. I'm okay. Thank God. He picks me up. He's like, are you all right? Yeah. The only thing he said the whole ride home, never says a word about the car. Months later, I'm like, Dad, how come you never yelled at me? He's like, I knew you knew. That's the kind of fatherhood I try to exemplify. Like I try to be there for the kids no matter what. Number two, supporting your wife. How you treat your wife or husband is the model that they will know. And so it takes a village. There's no, as much as I want to celebrate dadhood, it's a team. It just, and sometimes it's not, for the single parents out there, they have to occupy both roles, but there are two roles being done then. So you need to wear a lot of hats. You're never going to have enough time. You think you don't have time now? Forget it. You know this as a dad, Casey. It's like, there's always another thing. A third one is trying to figure out how to juggle who needs my attention. At sometimes in your life, your daughter needs a little more focus. Other times, not so much. You have to calibrate that based on what they're going through. This is your job as a coach, as a father, and so if you take the role seriously, you have to become a student of the role of parent. I feel like that's what I signed on for. If you're going to bring someone into the world, you better make sure that they turn out as a better version of you.
Yep. No, I love that. So if we think about that, maybe let's dive deeper on examples. So like supporting kids no matter what. Describe what do you mean by that?
My son is 15. If he ends up gay, black, white, I don't care what I don't care. I support him. He's technically oriented. I'm not a technology guy. He wants to go into technology. I support him. He showed some interest. He's mastered Ableton. For those familiar with DAWs, the digital workstations for music. I was in a rock band. I play guitar. I don't know anything about the digital music. That's what he wants to do. Great. We're in it. We're taking lessons. I'm learning it. I've learned how to use the DAW. It's your job to know how you can help them. So support them no matter what means when you sense that they're having difficulties in life, and you'll know, that doesn't mean you need to just give them advice. There's times you need to be a parent, times you need to be a friend. And so being able to wear those hats, I have to be actively on the look for that because not every kid will come and talk. My younger son, he'll come and tell me everything. It's great. My older son, he's kind of quiet with the words. He doesn't like to share. He's kind of more inward. Okay. There's nothing wrong with either one of those. But that means that I have to become two different dads. And I have to know how to shift between them. And I have to be able to support him and tell him that. That means you have to physically say the words, I want you to know I support you no matter what. I'm going to give you some advice. This is what I think would work in your situation. If you don't do it or you do it your way, I'm still going to support you. When you fail, and you will, I'll be there. Those are powerful words. People don't recognize the power that words have. And you'll remember harsh, cutting words as a kid or loving words of support. You take them with you your whole life. So it's on you to apply them now as you would to any other situation in life.
You mentioned supporting your wife. Kids are watching. Tell us an example. Like what would be something dads at home can be thinking about when you said that?
So my wife, I used to be I was the guy going out to work, corporate life, Wall Street, commuting to New York City from New Jersey, and my wife was working locally. I was never really home. Now I'm home running my own business. My wife is still doing her job, so she's not here as much as I am, and I used to never be around. So of course you can imagine the push and pull of who runs the house, how things are structured, how is the refrigerator ordered. This stuff comes up. And sometimes I'll have it right, and my wife will have it wrong, and sometimes my wife will have it right. So the kids will say, oh, you do a better job of this than mom, or vice versa. Mom does a better job than you. Your job isn't to criticize. Your job isn't to say agree or disagree. Always, always, always praise my wife, in my case. This is what your mom does this because of such and such. And this is how she views the world. And that's why I married her, because of that. And I think she's awesome because of that. And it's not the way I would do it, but so you never want to make your partner look bad. Number one.
Yep.
Number two, always find an opportunity to talk well of both your kids in front of your wife and your wife in front of your kids, or your husband, whatever, respectively. You need to make sure that folks overhear you talking well of them. They catch you.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox. I want to take a quick break to talk about my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods, who continue to be just an amazing, loyal sponsor. And for those of you who've tried it, thank you. For those of you who haven't, you're missing out. And now's the time to make sure that you visit catchsitkaseafoods.com and get some of those amazing smoked salmon. Get some of that amazing rockfish, blackfish, black cod, salmon, whatever it might be, whatever you like. But what's great about opportunities they have, now's the time to subscribe to a box so that you're going to get that reliable cadence of the best fish directly from the dock to the doorstep. And what's great about Catch Sitka Seafoods, they make it so easy. So those that maybe aren't the best chefs at home, doesn't matter. They're going to give you this beautiful, nice laminated recipe card that tells you exactly how long to cook it, whether you're going to barbecue, you're going to bake, you're going to fry, whatever the way you want to do it, they're going to make it easy. So please visit them today, catchsitkaseafoods.com. Sign up for a subscription so that you know you're going to get the best fish delivered directly to your door. You won't regret it. And just like my daughter Riley says, Dad, I don't even like fish. And she does now because of my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafood. So with that, let's get right back to today's episode.
Praising them.
Yeah.
The wife, praising my wife is the best thing I can do for my kids, because guess what? They want to love her, right? And so I want to support that. And in the end of the day, I always think in my head, there's going to be scenarios that my kids, your kids, Casey, you're going to be in college. Something's going on in the rooms there with the drugs are being passed, or the girls or the guys. You won't be there to take care of that for them. But who they became as the person needs to do that for you. And that comes out in the small moments now of me supporting my wife or me supporting my children, and making sure it's clear that I'm there for them, that I'm there for my wife, that I believe in her, even if we don't agree. And that's, I'm married like the rest of us. It's not always sunshine and roses, but it should always be respectful, and it should always be a teachable moment.
I love that. Very well said. Okay. And last week you said trying to juggle who needs attention. I think that's a one that takes some serious self-awareness. I think it takes there's a phrase I always like to say, me noticing a difference when I'm not my best version of myself. Maybe talk about how dads at home can be thinking about ways to know which child needs, if they have multiple kids, needs more attention. What are some things you've seen work?
It's sales 101, Casey. You'll relate to this. It's talking to them, but not talking at them. It is listening. And so my oldest son, he's in high school, and there's a lot of drama, as you may know, from high school. I need to pay a little closer attention now. I need to arm him with the tools he didn't have or need in middle school. And that would be things like, I said to him, guys compete by cutting each other down in high school. Like that's the rank order. They're not going to throw fists in the hallway. They're going to insult you. And you need to be able to take that and give it back. And comedy is currency. If you can. And so this is how high school is going to work. And he's like, he's taking like mental notes on this. Now that he's got a handle on that, okay, I can relax a little bit. My other son, I'm doing a lot of driving around at practices these days. My other son's like, you're not as home as much as you used to be before the high school sports all started up. Right. I need to go grab him and take him out for some breakfast, which I did. So we took a half day out of school. We went and got some food together, and I heard a lot of great stories that I wouldn't have heard otherwise. I think you need to be conscientious of the fact that these children need a focused approach. And if you're not sure, you ask them. I literally say to my son, I'm screwing you up in some way that I don't know about, because I love you and I'm doing everything I think is right. But I know by nature of being a human, I'm not doing something right. I need you to tell me what that is. This is an actual conversation. I'm not like paraphrasing.
Yeah.
So my younger son's like, well, here's where you're good, Dad, and here's where you suck. Fantastic. And I'm like, all right, got it. I don't always want to hear it when da-da-da-da. And so now I know my older son, he's got some strengths. He's very organized. He's got my wife's genes for that. My younger son's more like me. He's all over the board. So time management can sometimes be a challenge. I now know how to manage that in a better way by him telling me, here's the things that work for me. But I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't ask. My older son, Sometimes he's afraid to ask. So I have to volunteer a bit. Did you have any issues with this? How are you finding making friends? What are you doing to actually engage yourself with the kids at school? I'll ask these questions. But when I listen, I can't just give him advice. Sometimes you just let them talk.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of like you're right. Sales 101. If we have to tell people what to do, it's our idea, not theirs. They're going to resist us. But if we ask questions and make them realize how great maybe our idea is, they just don't see it yet. I learned this from a mentor. He said it's value-based selling. And so I think that's kind of what we have to do. We have to lead them
Love it.
to a spot, not to manipulate them, but really help them understand something that we have experienced. But we have to help them see it and meet them where they are so they can grow.
You know this better than anyone, Casey. You're the guide and not the boss.
Yep.
Both in sales and in parenting. No,
I love that. As you think about an area of your dad game that, because we're all flawed, right? My gap, I'll go first here. I'll say my gap at times can be patience. So I have to be really focused on being patient and expectation management. Like in my mind, these are super clear to me, but did I do a good job communicating them to the family? I don't know. Usually when things get off the rails, probably not. So I have to be really focused on that. But for you, Mark, maybe talk about an area of your dad game that you're working on just improving so that your kids and wife see that, hey, we're not all perfect and we all can find ways to get better.
So my biggest weakness in that regard is putting my head on my wife's shoulders. I frequently think that she will understand what I intuitively know when I haven't even taken the time to explain it to her. So number one, where are we going with the business, right? I'm running my own show now. What's the vision? What do I expect from her? I pride myself on Mr. Communication. I literally named my company a communications company. And there's 100,000 examples I could give you of my not explaining to her clearly what I was expecting, what I was hoping for. How do you not understand is a phrase that I have said and should never say. And so one of my weaknesses is I've realized that what I put in place, a regular sit down once a week with my wife, literally it's a download for her to me and from me to her. A colleague of mine, I used to work with a woman, Kate, who was great. She used to say that being married is more of a business than a business. Like you need to be on the same page. If all departments aren't pulling together, the business goes nowhere. And so I now need to work on my dad game of, okay, it's not as structured when you run your own company. It's certainly not as structured when your kids are, growing a little older and now they're in high school and they didn't used to be. I could manage it all well. Now it's all over the board. You need to make sure that you have tools in place for communication. Number one, that means regular check-ins. Number two, another weakness of mine, I think to your point, Casey, I expect things that I probably shouldn't, right? My wife is busy. She's dealing with autistic children. When she comes home, she's exhausted. And there I am, downloading. There's a Saturday Night Live skit, The Man Park. If you haven't seen this, check it out. It's a dog park, but for men. And one of the jokes is, when the wife comes home and the husband who's not working just starts spewing all the stuff, what's happened to him through the day. And she's just like, give me a minute. That's my family. So my wife will be like, I don't know or care why Nike just bought an NFT virtual sneaker company. I just want to get in and wash my hands. And I'm like, right. If Bruce Springsteen just sold his music label, it's because his record rights, it's because of the relationship he built and relationship selling and relationship. She's like, okay, I get it. Can I just get something to eat first? So you get a little bit of, I got to ratchet myself back. I tend to have a higher energy level than most folks. And so that's a third one, like calibrate, calm it down, Mark.
Mm-hmm. There's something I wrote down, which I think is good for dads to think about. I have to work on it. And I think this might speak to what you just said, Mark, is the difference between expectations and agreements, right? Expectations are usually what we say, but like if you don't get agreement with what these expectations are fair, realistic, then all we're doing is setting ourselves up to fail. We're setting our wives up to fail, our kids up to fail based on what we think they can do, but they don't want to do it, or they're not ready to do it. So I think
please, no, continue.
No, I was going to say, I think that approach, I've used it in business when I was leading people. And I think it's even like in the coaching space, like if someone tells me they want to do something, well, okay, here's what I think we would expect to do. Are you in agreement of wanting to do that? And so they have to get their own buy-in. Again, just like anything in life, we have to make it someone else's idea.
Yep.
They will sell themselves if it's something they care about.
So the challenge, as you know, Casey, is what to do, right? You have no problem doing it in business. I can execute alongside you and everyone else. It's in your personal life being able to remember, okay, it works the same way. The minute you're saying things like, here's what I need you to do, you'd never say that to a customer. And yet
Right.
you'd say it to your partner. So
Right.
that's the thing where you have to think to yourself, okay, I need to stay consistent in how I treat my personal life and my partner, my wife, my husband, my children in the same regard as I would a customer, because they
Right.
are. Just like a CEO's job is not to be the boss, but to serve. A parent's job is to serve.
Yep. Be a boomerang. I tell people, have a boomerang mindset. Just throw boomerangs of service, throw positive boomerangs of your wife, your kids. Eventually they're going to come back to you. But if you keep serving people, watch what happens. And I'm a big karma guy too. So I think that spoke to me, what you just said. If
Big
you were to
fan of
think
that.
about, one or two areas that if you can close your eyes and you hope your kids take away one or two things that you've taught them, you and your wife have taught them, that you believe will help make them successful, what traits come to mind?
Number one, believe in yourself. It doesn't matter. You're going to be pooped on your whole life. I tell them this from school, straight through to work, straight through this. You're always going to be told why you suck. The world has no problem telling you where you're falling short. So expect that. But number two, you have to always say to yourself, you're your own biggest cheerleader in life. The difference between ego and confidence. Ego is, I need you to tell me I'm great. Confidence is, I just know it internally. And so I want them to know they need to believe in themselves no matter what. I don't care what the outside voices are. And number two, you need to deliver more value than you take. If you're a giver, if you're known as a giver, people always want to open doors for a person like that. People always want that person on their team. People want to refer folks like that. And that's not just in business, that's in personal. That gets down to who you're dating, and how you conduct your life is determined by how you treat people. Meaning other people will go out of their way for the nice person, but they won't otherwise. You know this. Every time there's a conversation behind the scenes you'll never know about, what do you think of Casey? Casey's the best guy in the world. Oh, really? Like that. You mentioned Dale earlier. Dale's awesome. Dale's amazing. And if the minute I knew you were a Dale, connected to Dale, I'm like, dude, we're the same kind of people. I'm in. And that's the thing. We call it personal brand. We call it reputation. That matters. That comes from how you treat people, not just what you put on social media. And so the two lessons from my kids, self-belief, right? And that starts with knowing who you are and treating people the right way. That's their job. And it's on me right now to make sure that happens.
Love that. It takes a presence. It takes a choice by you and your wife. These are little things that don't seem like big things, but when they're taught over and over and inspected over and over, you're going to create great human beings. I have a funny Dale story for you real quick. So I called it, I created a new verb yesterday. It's called, I got Daled, or you got Daled. Okay. So Dale is, he's the man of, when he wants to connect somebody, he doesn't ask. He calls me, and all of a sudden he's like, yo, Case, what's up? Hey, I got Marc in line. Hold on. I'm on a conference I'm in. I'm like, what? I mean, what do you know if I'm he doesn't care.
You know what's great about it? He's so comfortable about it.
He is. And I've come to just love it. Like, so I was talking to one of my clients I'm coaching, and this gentleman's looking for, he runs like a financial advice. He's a wealth management firm, but he also does like some volunteer work, and they're looking for speakers. And I encourage him to say, if you ever come across anybody in my network, do you think I can help you? Let me know. I love connecting people. It fills my tank. And he goes, so yesterday with like 12 minutes left in our coaching call, he says, hey, I came across this guy named Dale Favors, and I saw him. I saw some YouTube stuff and speaking. I said, you know what? I'm going to Dale. I said, hold on real quick. I said, I muted the Zoom, picked up the phone, called Dale. Dale's like, Case, what's up, man? I said, hold on. You're going to get Daled real quick. He's like, what? I said, hold on real quick. I called my client, conferenced them, and they're going to end up, I think this guy's going to end up using Dale or someone in Dale's network to keynote this event.
Yeah, but see, I know Dale well enough. Dale was like, hey, what's going on? He was all into it. That's great.
Yeah. Oh, he loved it. He loved it. And so like, I think kind of what we're talking about, summarization. I mean, if you can be a connector, serve others, it will come back. It will always come back to you. You might not see it in the short run, but I think we can, as dads, teach our kids these types of things, man. You're just going to create a better place for everybody to survive.
I want to build on that for a second. The soft skills are what we're talking about here. And I think that the technical hard skills are important for sure, but I can rent all that. I can go on Fiverr and Upwork and get all the technology skills I need. I can buy. Soft skills are something you need to build and develop yourself. And it's my job right now with my children to develop that. But like a guy like you or Dale, hopefully me, when you can get people connected, when you can help people such that they want to help you back, that's not a technical skill. And yet, that is the future of business. That is the future of success. That is actually the foundation of happiness. Forget about money.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. So true. And again, these, I think through a lot of things you've said, curiosity, listening, asking great questions. I love the specific examples and guidance you gave. Who needs attention and kids are watching, praise. You made me think. My wife just had her 1-year anniversary at her job. She was a stay-at-home mom, went back to work. But at dinner tonight, I'm going to make sure the kids know, hey, I don't know if you guys knew this, but mom, badass, just had her 1-year anniversary of their job. You guys, let's shout out to mom, give her some love. Just like
that's amazing.
Little things like that, but she was a 9-year stay-at-home mom. She spent 13 years at Alaska Airlines, was a beast there. She does great work in the nonprofit world, but we all supported her to go back to work. And I'm glad you said that, because it's like, that's a great thing I can take out of this conversation today is like, go praise her and make sure the kids know. They know, but make sure they really know. In front
of her publicly, let her know that you're honoring her because of that.
Yep.
And by the way, stay-at-home mom is the hardest job in the world. Let's be honest.
100%.
That's the other one doesn't even hold a candle to that.
Oh my God, I would be a disaster. But okay, so as you think about, as we get ready to kind of wrap up here, if you think about, you gave some amazing advice. If you're to summarize everything we talked about into maybe like a couple, like 2 or 3 actionable things dads need to be thinking about. You've already kind of done that, but you only can pick 2 or 3. Tell me what comes to mind where.
I think number 1, self-confidence for your child, right? So you have to make sure that they are the most confident individual in the world. Again, it doesn't mean cocky. It means that they know who they are. It is your job, because you know them better than they know them, especially at the younger years. And as they develop into the people they become, you have to shift that into support. So number 1, you have to use your awareness of them to help them develop their self-awareness.
Okay.
Number 2, you need to then know when to ratchet it back and just say, now you're driving the boat here and I'm going to be on board, but I am with you no matter what. You got to shift to co-pilot. And there'll be times you have to grab the wheel, there's situations in life. But number 3, at some point, if you've done it all right, you got to let them go. And I have not hit that phase yet, and I'm struggling to think about it. But honestly, Casey, that's the goal here is to create independent, self-fulfilled, happy individuals who stand on their own 2 feet.
Oh, I'm scared about that too. I've already told other dads with girl dads, when I have to walk my daughter down the aisle, I'm going to be a disaster. It's going to probably they're going to have to delay the wedding for tears. I'm going to be a mess.
The truth of the matter is, I think that in the end, you will actually, like I said, she'll keep the family. You'll gain more. As a dad of boys, I don't know that I will. I hope I do. I happen to be living near my mom and my sisters. That's unusual.
Right. Yeah, that's cool though. Okay. Now we go into what's called the lightning round, where I go completely random on you. I just ask you anything top of mind that it might make 0 sense. This is the part I hope to get a giggle out of you. And your job is to answer these questions as quickly as you can.
Roger.
Are you ready?
Born ready, baby.
Okay. Tell me the last book you read.
It was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends, Influence People. I read that 15 times in my life, but I reread it about 2 weeks ago.
Very cool. If I was to go into your phone and the last song played, what would I find?
Pearl Jam, Go.
God, look at you. Eddie Vedder, Seattle band.
Yeah. I'm a 90s guy,
Sweet. If you're to book a vacation right now, where are you and the family going?
Clearwater Beach, Florida.
Okay.
So that's my retirement plan eventually. But I have family down there. I love that place.
Okay. And if I was to come to your house for dinner tonight, what would you make me?
Probably steak.
Okay.
I'm a pretty simple guy. I'd throw it on the grill. Yeah, I'm going to grab a beer and hang out in the backyard and talk guy.
Okay. If you were to tell me your favorite favorite 80s comedy sitcom, what would it be?
Probably Cheers. I'd go with Cheers.
Okay. Favorite 80s comedy movie?
Oh, God. 80s comedy movie. There's so many of them. See, I was an action guy. So I'm in the sci-fi world. Comedy? I didn't love the comedy movies in the 80s. I thought they were cheesy. Sorry. Blanking on that one.
Okay. Anybody ever tell you look like the guy from Red Zone channel.
No, but I like it. I'll go with it.
Yeah. I was like, where have I seen this guy? I'm like, that's it. So listener, you can't see him. I can on video. And then last question.
That's because that guy's incredibly handsome. Let's be honest, Casey.
Well, good point. That's a great point. If I was to, if there was to be a book written about your life, what would be the title?
Oh gosh, Relentless.
Okay. Now Relentless is released. Golden Globes picked it up. Academies have picked it up. And you have a chance to pick today's Hollywood actor that's going to star you in this movie. Who's it going to be?
Ryan Reynolds.
God, look at you. That a boy. Last question. Describe 2 words that describe your wife.
Unbelievably patient.
There we go. Lightning round's over. I kind of got to giggle. This was a little bit more on the serious side. It's been an honor talking to you, Marc. It's been
as well here, Casey, as well. This is very real fast. I always go on these podcasts and they're always like, give me top 10 tips on how to do content marketing better. Tell me how to build relationships with the sales. This is like actually real. So kudos to you for putting together an unbelievable format.
No, I appreciate it. It's fun. I mean, like I said in the very beginning, I get therapy out of doing this. I learn from other dads. It reminds me, I get action every time I not only do I listen to it when I interview somebody, but then when it plays back, I listen to them and try to gain something from it just to kind of figure out ways to be a little bit better version of myself. So since we're in season 3, I hope these sponsors are going to be with us. We're still waiting to kind of figure out what that's going to, but I'm going to give them love anyways. I want to give shout out to Catch Sitka Seafoods up in Sitka, Alaska. Amazing seafood company that was been hit by COVID, but they're coming back. They're getting not only the consumer market, but they're also getting into the wholesale market. So if you like seafood, please give them a shot. It is, I was a little, be honest with you, I was a little scared ordering them from first. I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna get seafood shipped? What if it's raw? They ship it with dry ice overnight. It comes the most easily packaged, easily shipped. They make recipes easy for you. They give a cooking card. I mean, like if you're the worst cook in the world, they will make you look like a 5-star chef. And then shout out to Acme Homes, a great home builder, former college teammate of mine, Bob Cumming. He's doing great things. Please check them out if you're listening in the state of Washington. They got homes on the east side of the state, up and down the 405 corridor. But with that, Marc, keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for helping me in my business. I know that we're going to keep talking, brother, because I think you're going to be able to help me out somewhere in the future. But enjoy the holidays, and when this episode comes out, we're going to be in 2022, and hopefully we're COVID stuff's gone, and we're all kind of getting back to some level of normalcy.
2 things, Casey. Number 1, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to be here. Number 2, thanks for getting me to think about the deeper things, like what really matters in life. Because oftentimes, like I said, podcasts, whatever. This was actually very, very interesting because you walk away thinking of things back in my mind. So if ever I could do anything for you, you let me know. You know I'm always around.
Awesome. Actually, last question. How can people follow you? How can they learn more about you?
Probably best thing is LinkedIn. Invictus.com is my company. I'm not here to pitch. That's the truth. That's fine. If people want to find me, they know how to dig me out. The truth of the matter is, LinkedIn is probably it. I mean, you can email me. It's marc@invictus.com. Okay. I'm on Instagram. I'm Marc Angelos NYC on all social handles. So go dig if you like.
Marc
but the truth of the matter is
NYC. We're going to tag you, bro.
It's MarcAngelos NYC.
Okay.
Which is ironic because now I live, I've always lived in Jersey. I worked in New York for 27 years. But again, pitching is over. It's done. Mm-hmm. It's what kind of value can you bring?
Yep. Love it, man. Keep up doing the great work. Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot, Casey.
See you, buddy. Well, thank you, Marc, so much for your time and joining me on the Quarterback Dadcast. Again, a shout out to Dale Favors for making this one happen. Just recapping what Marc said, man, believe in yourself. One of my favorite words. He talked about expectations versus agreements. You're your own biggest cheerleader. Love that. Help build that self-confidence in our children. Marc, thanks so much for joining this podcast. And I wanted just a reminder to anybody who listens weekly, if you could do us a favor and go to iTunes, go to Spotify, wherever you consume your podcast, and please leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing, because that will help spread the word about the Quarterback Dadcast. It will help us make and build better leaders in the homes so that we can help our kids become better leaders when they become dads. So thank you again for all your support, and we will see you next week on another episode of the Quarterback Dadcast.